Hello and welcome to a bonus edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, my plan today is to try and solve Phistomefel's starbattle puzzle. Now, after yesterday's video, I actually had an email from Phistomefel himself suggesting that I take a look at a forum post he has made about this puzzle, in which he reveals his intended way of solving it. Now, I have to say, I clicked on that link and I did see the picture, so I have a little bit of an insight into what Phistomefel intended. But I'm also aware that there's apparently a normal way of solving this, that Phistomefel hoped didn't exist but turns out to exist. So my intention here is to try and find sort of the normal way through it, and then to try, because I've seen the picture that Phistomefel had created on this forum post, I'm going to try and recreate that logic. So I've got, to do that, I've actually got the picture that he created in a different tab. Let me show you that. This, believe it or not, is some form of this, and we'll see why that works after, hopefully, I've completed the real solve. So, as usual with starbattle, beautifully simple set of rules. Our task is to place 2 stars in every row, in every column, and in every irregular shaped region, subject only to the condition that a star cannot touch another star even diagonally. So if this square is a star, I'm going to use red for stars. I'm determined to use our software to solve this because I struggle a bit with the Pemper variant. Then if this was a star, we couldn't have a star in any of the surrounding cells. So that's the thing we have to remember. Do have a go at the puzzle first, of course. Phistomefel's puzzles are, as you know, just quintessentially fantastic. Now, the way to play, click the link under the video. And with that, let us get cracking and see how we can solve this. Now, as I say, it's a very interesting puzzle, this, because Phistomefel had obviously believed there was only one way of solving it, which was to use the pattern he created, which I guess is related to 2x2 cells, and overlaying that on the grid. But can we spot anything better than that? Or not better, I don't think it's going to be better what we're going to find. We're going to find something unintentional. But can we find another way? This cell can't be a star, because if that cell's a star, look what it does to this region now. We couldn't have a star in any of those cells, or any of those cells, and we'd have to put 2 stars into this domino, so that doesn't work. Exactly the same with this square. Look, if we put a star in here, none of those could be stars. We'd have to put 2 stars into a 2x2 region, which is impossible. The most important thing to remember about starbattle puzzles is that any 2x2 region of the grid can contain a maximum of 1 star. Now, it's interesting, the bottom 4 rows, look, they entirely encompass 4 shapes. Hang on a second, let me see. Right, okay, now I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3. Well, I'm not sure if this works, but I'm going to have a look at it and see whether it works. If I draw an imaginary line down the grid along where the cursor's moving, you can see that on the left-hand side of that imaginary line, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 complete shapes. And on the right side of the imaginary line, I've got 5 complete shapes. That is right, isn't it? I think that's right. So, if we... now, let me just think about this. If I've got 5 complete shapes... Have I definitely got 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I do. So, the question I'm asking is, if I highlight all of these cells, i.e. all the cells to the right of my imaginary line, how many stars are going to be in this region in the completed puzzle? Well, the answer must be 12, because there are 6 complete columns. But I've got 5 complete shapes, so I know that those 5 complete shapes will contain 10 of the 12 stars I'm looking for. Now that means that incomplete shapes, which are these cells here, have to have exactly 2 stars in them. Now, can we use that to deduce anything intelligent about the puzzle? Let me think about this. Yes, one thing I can deduce from that, look, is if there were 2 stars, I'm going to just highlight this region. If there were 2 stars in this region, then this shape is broken. Because I could put no stars in that region. If I put a star in this region, there would be 13 stars to the right of my line, and that's impossible. And if there are no stars in all of that region, we could only put 1 star in this cell, and this region here would have a maximum of 1 star in it. So I know there are not 2 stars in this region. This is good. This is good. If there are not 2 stars in this region, is it possible there are no stars in this region? No, it's not possible, because I can't put 2 stars into a 2 by 2 region. So in fact there is exactly 1 star. Yeah, this is lovely. There is exactly 1 star in this purple region. I'm going to make that blue now. So there's exactly 1 star in this region. Now, we've already looked a little bit at this shape, but if there were no stars in this region, you can see that the shape breaks. I can't put 2 stars in this region. So there must be exactly 1 star in this region. Now why is this so important? Well, now we've identified very approximately the positions of the 2 stars we were looking for to make us up to 12 stars to the right of this line. So there can't be stars in here, that's impossible. And more to the point, if there's exactly 1 star in this purple region, that square must be a star, and that is a lovely beginning. So we now know there's a star in one of those 2 cells to be our 2nd star in this shape. That square there was green originally because of this box. This is lovely. Okay, so now look, this domino here is 1 star. Now row 1 has 2 stars in it. Well, we know a 2nd star must be in this collection of cells because I can't put 2 stars into this square regarding this shape. So there must be 1 star along there, and that must be a star. So they turn green. There must be a star in this region here. I'll make that grey. This is the way I solve star battles, by the way. I tend to, use one colour for orthogonally connected squares that I know have to contain exactly 1 star. You can see I've got approximately positioned the 2 stars in row 1. They all have to turn green. I've got to be a bit careful with my highlighting in this shape here because I know that it's one of these light blue cells, including this cell, that could be the 2nd star in this region. Okay, no, although I say that and I don't think you can put a star in these blue cells here in row 2. Now why is that? Well, let's try it. Let's put a star in here and see what it does to these shapes on the left hand side, because now I can't put any more stars in row 2. So those would have to turn green. That places 2 stars in this region here, and that breaks this shape, because now these 2 stars rule the roost over all those cells and force me to have to put 2 stars into a 2 by 2 region. Not possible. So this is rather lovely, because now if none of those can be a star, this must be a star. And you can see, look at this. That's going to allow me to green out some cells there that green out the whole of the rest of column 12. We've got 2 stars in column 12. This shape needs to contain 2 stars. As you can only put 1 star in a 2 by 2 region, that cell's a star. Cover it in green. This is a star. Let's make that light blue. Look, we've got 2 stars now in row 3. We've got 1 in the light blue and this actual star. So that can't be a star. None of those can be a star. Now, okay. Several things I'm spotting here. Whoa, okay, we're really off to a good start. So let's have a look at column 7 and 8, these 2 columns here. Now if we look carefully, we've got 1 star exactly in this backward L shape. How many stars can we put in this region at the bottom in these 8 cells? Well, it's 2 2 by 2, so the maximum I could put into these cells here is 2 stars. But I know these 2 columns have 4 stars in them. So in the grey, I must have a star in one of those two. Those two can turn green. And I must have a star in this region, and I must have a star in this region. And now this shape at the bottom, this shape here, I've found my 2 stars in it, so the rest of that turns green. Oh, this shape now is forced. Look, that's got to be a red star. We can colour those in, colour these in. Whenever you get a domino, the orthogonally adjacent cells can turn green. Those must be green. And you can see that because if I put a star there, obviously it rules a star out from both of those positions, which is not what's intended. So now if we look at this region, we can approximately place the stars. There must be a star in one of those 2 squares to complete this column's second star. Therefore, there's no stars there. Therefore, there's a star in one of those 2 cells. Therefore, there's no stars there. And if you look down this column carefully, look, we've got 1, 2 stars that we found. So this square changes colour. This square must become red. And I think that's as far as we go. I've got to be a bit careful with this purple region here because again it's become discontinuous. But all I'm saying with these purple squares is there's 1 star in this sequence of cells. Okay, now let's have a look at row 2 of the grid. You can see that I can't put 2 stars into these 3 squares, or I'd have 3 stars in row 2. Can I have no stars in the yellows? Well, the answer is no, because I can't put 2 stars here. So there is exactly 1 star in that sequence of cells, and exactly 1 star in that sequence of cells. So we can put in some more greens. Now this is good for this square. Can this square be a star? No, because then there would be 3 stars in row 2. So this is green, and look what that does to this sort of D-shaped region here. I've now got to put 2 stars into these 6 cells. So again, we can green out the middle ones. That must be a star. That must be a star. This domino turns that green. That must be a star. I have 1 of these 3, so I'm not quite sure what that looks like yet. Those turn green. 1, 2, 3. Oh, good grief. Look, there's an easy win. An easy win in the bottom 2 rows. I've found the positions of 3 stars approximately, so there can be a maximum of 1 star in all of those yellow squares. So the second star in this bottom region here has simply got to be in that square. So we can ring all of those cells. That means that's a star, look. Now let's look at this region. Where can the stars go? There must be 1 star in that 2 by 2, 1 star there. Those 2 must be green. Now let's look at columns 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4 stars found. That's exactly right. So this is not star. Neither of those can be a star, or there'll be 5 stars in the first 2 columns. Okay, sorry, stuck again now. Let me take another stare at this and see if we can spot anything useful. This column has 2 stars in it. Good grief, I should have spotted that straight away. Sorry. So that must be a star. We can turn all of these squares green. I need to stop clicking that right mouse button. I'm terrified I'm going to suddenly lose the puzzle or something. 2 stars in this row. So these turn green. This turns green as well. I've got to remember here actually, this domino and this are 1 star, so it's not true to say this is exactly 1 star, it's not. Okay. 2 stars I have found in row 10. Look, 1, 2. So those turn green. These turn green. We've got 2 stars in the bottom row. I didn't spot that either. Good grief, Simon. What are you doing? So we get... This must be a star now. Therefore, this is not a star. This is a star. That fixes... I'm glad about that because this discontinuous region was bugging me. So now you can see we've found 2 stars in column 8, is that? Because there's a star in this domino, so that's not a star. This is a star. And this star here rules that one out, so this is a star. That rules that one out, so this is a star. That gives us 2 stars in whatever row that is, so they turn green. And we're slowly closing in on this funny region here. In fact, we can do a rough dissection of it, but there must be a second star in this triple here for this column, which means this square can't be a star, otherwise it would rule a star out of those squares, and there must be a star in one of these 3 positions. Now, here's some simple logic we can do. Can this square be a star? If that square's a star, look what it does to row 1. It's going to push a star into this square and a star into this square, and I'm going to have 3 stars in row 1. That doesn't work, so this must be a star. That means that turns green. That creates a domino, so that turns green. That creates a domino, so that turns green. That gives us our second star in column 1. All of these have to turn colour. That means we get 1 here. Turn this green. We've got 2 stars in this row, and I think, unless I've made a catastrophic error, we're finished now, because now that turns green. It's a beautiful puzzle, isn't it? As you'd expect from Phistomefel. Isn't it incredible that that puzzle is not the way he intended that to be solved? Because that was very enjoyable. Let me just check that I've got 2 stars in every row and nothing's touching. That looks okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 in every region, hopefully. It looks good. Okay, so I think that's right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this tab. There we go. And what you can see I've done is I've duplicated it and I've tiled it, because I think this is what Phistomefel wanted us to appreciate. Now, if you look carefully at this grid now, you can see something rather extraordinary that Phistomefel has done with the geometry, and it's certainly not something I appreciated in the regular solve that we did. So I think the regular solve involved us drawing a hypothetical line down column 6 and then doing some arithmetic to work out basically that this cell had to be red. Now, by tiling, because we know a number of things once we look at a 12 by 12 grid in a star battle. The first thing we know is we can think about how many 2 by 2s it's possible to split the 12 by 12 grid into. So that's going to be 144, that's 144 cells divided by 4, the number of cells in a 2 by 2 region. So there's 36 of these 2 by 2 cells. And we know that there are 12 rows in the puzzle. So in each of the rows there's got to be 2 stars. So there are 24 stars to find, and there are 36 possible 2 by 2s in which to place them. So there are 12 empty 2 by 2s. Now, the thing I've noticed when I tiled this is look how beautiful the arrangement. If you pick any region in this puzzle, let's pick this one to start with, you can see that by joining it to one of its adjacent regions, it's possible to create a sort of double region that is entirely tiled by 2 by 2 stars. Isn't this beautiful? So this double region here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2 by 2s in it, but we know a double region has exactly 4 stars in it. So exactly one of these 2 by 2s doesn't contain a star. I mean, look at it here. If we pick this region, this funny shaped region, and we join it to the region on the right of it, we create a beautiful 6x6 square, which is tiled perfectly, with 9 2x2 regions. But in this double region, there are 4 stars. So 5 of the 2x2s in the square have to be empty. So we've identified approximately the position of 5, 6 of the empty 2x2 regions. This 5, 6. So this double region here has 5 2x2s and has 4 stars. So there's another one there. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7 of the empty regions. There's another similar one there. Look, that's 8. The bottom 2 regions, this region here and this region here, have 6 2x2s but 4 stars. So they provide another 2 empty regions as well each to get us up to the 12 empty regions. Now, this is why Phistomefel created the forum post that showed this puzzle, because this puzzle is in effect this puzzle. And I'm sure you've all spotted why. All that this puzzle is representing this puzzle in terms of 2x2 regions. So if we join each of these regions together, you can see that would be one cell, that would be a second cell, that would be a third cell, fourth cell, fifth cell, and go back to this diagram, and it makes this shape. So in fact, this is an incredibly clever idea, but it is possible to redraw this puzzle in a much smaller form by saying that one cell in the small form equals a 2x2 region in the big form. Now, of course, that then leads to some interesting questions, because what are the rules for solving this puzzle? Because this is no longer regular star battle rules, because each of these regions represents 2 regions of the big puzzle. So each of these regions in this puzzle has to contain 4 stars, and those 4 stars can touch each other, because of course each of these cells represents a 2x2 region in the big puzzle, so it's quite possible to hide stars away from each other. So yeah, so we've got to put 4 stars in each row, column and region of this puzzle. And that then might be an easier puzzle to solve, presumably. I think this is what Phistomefel wants us to appreciate, is it's easier to solve this simplified form of star battle than it is to solve the big form of the star battle. Or maybe what we're meant to do is to solve bits of this and then go back into this one, and because we'll identify cells that have to contain a star. I don't know. But let's have a think about how we'd solve this puzzle then, because I think that's what Phistomefel wants us to do. Now, how do we solve this puzzle? So we've got to put 4 stars in each... yes, okay. So if we need to put 4 stars in each region, this region is only 5 cells, and it has to contain 4 stars. So can I put those 4 stars there? Well, no. And the reason I can't is if I put 4 stars here, row 1 has its 4 stars, so I'd have to make these 2 squares blank, and now this region can only have 3 stars in it. So this square must be a star. So now 3 of these 4 cells are stars, which means 1 of these 2 cells is a star, which means those 3 cells are stars. So if we just pop back into... So let's remember, this is the second 2x2 down on the right. That's this cell we've now identified has to contain a star. Now that is weird. That is certainly not, I think, where the logic that I used to solve the puzzle took me. So in my version, I divided the grid down here and used counting in order to identify something about this square. I certainly didn't think about this cell, or this 2x2 region. That is very peculiar. Now, so can we go further than that then? Let me think. I was about to say that this 3x3 square is interesting. It is a little bit interesting, but if you look, because this is always surrounded by the geometry of the puzzle is always to surround this 3x3 with three squares. So every single row and every single column of this 3x3 must contain at least one star. It's not possible, for example, to say there are no stars in that set of cells there, because we couldn't then put 4 stars in row 3. So each... I'm not actually sure that's helpful though, as I say. What else can we do? It's got to be maybe this region. This is... this region has an indirect effect, I think, because what we can do here is we know that columns 5 and 6 have to contain 8 stars in this small puzzle, and we know that we've actually identified approximately the position of 5 of them. 1 in here, 4 in there. Okay. And how many stars can we put in? Is it possible? 4 in here, 5 in here. So immediately, actually, this shape is more interesting, isn't it? We can't have 4 stars in those cells, because if we do, we've got at least 9 cells in these columns, 9 stars in the columns. And in fact, I don't think we're going to have 3 stars in here, because if we do, we've got to put 4 stars in this region. And the only way this works is if I can't put a star in either of those cells. And I must put a star in one of them, otherwise this region can't contain 4 stars. So good grief. Okay, so now if we can't put 4 stars or 3 stars into this little section here, there must be 2 stars there. Now, does that matter? That's the next question. So there are 2 stars here. Maybe it does matter, because now I know this 2x2 region in this small puzzle has to contain 2 stars. So I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there is exactly one, there's exactly 1 star in these 2 cells. Now, if there's exactly 1 star in these 2 cells, those 2 cells are definitely stars. And there must be 1 star in those 2 cells. There must be 1 star in those 3 squares. Okay, now... It's not immediately obvious to me how to take this further now, but I'm quite intrigued to see, if I map this back to the big puzzle, whether I've got sufficient information now about the big puzzle to break it that way. In fact, one thing I will just say about this puzzle, I'm not sure this puzzle is actually solvable on its own, because I'm just thinking about uniqueness. For example, let's imagine we identified that one of those 2 cells had to be a star, and one of these 2 cells had to be a star. How would we disambiguate whether that was that way round or that way round from this puzzle? I don't think we could. So maybe the idea is not to solve this puzzle, but to use the principles of it to get some information. So let's go back to the other puzzle. So now we know, it looks like it's going to be columns 7 and 8 that are the key. Now that is interesting. The little puzzle is saying that columns 7 and 8 are interesting, and that's exactly the columns that we found interesting in the original version of the solve. Yeah, this is fascinating. So now, looking back here, we know that there are 2 stars at the bottom. So we know, we got this. There's a star in that region. There's a star in this region. So this region here, we found its 2 stars. So all of those turn green. And in fact, that means, back into our smaller puzzle, we can put a green in. That square has to be green. I don't know if that matters, but it's quite cool. Anyway, let's go back to the other one. See if it tells us. What else do we get? We got as a red. That's got to be a star up there. That one had to be a star, didn't it? I remember that one. Oh, and the 3 squares over on this side all had to be stars. So we reach something like this. Okay, well I can see one thing that we can get from the little puzzle now, which is very similar to what we got from the big puzzle. Sorry, when I solved the big puzzle. Because now we know, if we look at the 3x3 box of the little puzzle, we have identified from logic that these 3 cells here contain 1 star. So let's go back to this puzzle. That means there is 1 star in this region here. Let me highlight it in what colour? Highlight it in yellow. So if there is 1 star in the yellow, now we can look at this region, which is exactly where we started before, and say, okay, where's the 2nd star in this shape? It has to be here. So we get to the same point, just in a rather more elegant way. That's incredible. That is incredible. So I think that is what Phistomefel intended, was just basically to think about the structure of this grid in terms of a 2x2 checkerboard arrangement, and then use the logic of a small puzzle like this to crack a larger puzzle. So now, if we come back here, we've now identified that square as red. Oh, anyway, and it would continue, no doubt. That is very interesting indeed. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Let me know how you solved the puzzle. Did you reduce it in the way that Phistomefel was intending, or did you manage to do it in a way that was more like the way I did it? Always read the comments, always interested. Thank you for watching this bonus edition, and we'll be back later with another real edition of Cracking the Cryptic.